Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another video. Today's card looks really sophisticated, but it's easy to do with this stamp by Concord and Ninth. It's a Wreath Turnabout stamp. You'll need to create a template. This is a 6x6 piece of cardstock that's drawn at the diagonal and then one vertical line going up and down. I've also labeled the quadrants 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you look at the paper inside your stamp packaging on the back, it'll have a crisscross marking the center of your stamp. And I find that using this piece of cardstock that came with the stamp against my template allows me to line it up the best. So what I do is I just make sure that my diagonals are in line with my template diagonals. Then I can just align my stamp to the image here that's provided, and I'll hold that down while I transfer my stamp to the lid of my MISTI. And this is going to make sure that I have my stamp lined up as accurately as possible. I want to center this image on my cardstock, so I'm going to mark the halfway point 2 1/8, and then I'll line that up with that vertical line I made on my template. And then I'll just put some masking tape to hold this in place. I made a card recently out of cardstock with these 4 colors, and I love the combination so much that I'm going to use those same inks on this card. So I'm stamping my Daffodil Delight first, and it's kind of sticking to my cardstock, and I have a bad habit of not using my my magnets, and so I'm adding some masking tape, and I actually do add the magnets too. But I'm going to rotate this to quadrant number 2, and now I have Tempting Turquoise, so I'm going to stamp that down. And once I have that stamped, I'll turn it one more time to quadrant 3. I can't see the 3, but it's underneath my cardstock there. And then I'm going to use Elegant Eggplant, so it's nice to add sort of a darker color to the mix. And then I'll rotate it one final time to quadrant 4. And then I will stamp this using Green Apple by Simon Says Stamp. And I saved this for last because sometimes the Simon Says Stamp inks will transfer to another ink that you use that same stamp with. Okay, so that is it. So I'm going to hold this up so you can see it was lined up pretty darn well using all of these extra steps to make sure that I got it lined up right. So I'm going to trim this to 4 1/8 by 4 1/8, and then I'm going to mat it to 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 Elegant Eggplant cardstock. I pulled my sentiment from the Circle Saying Set by Simon Says Stamp just because it was simple and small. I'm going to stamp it onto some Elegant Eggplant cardstock and white emboss it. And for some reason this stamp is either missing parts or it just requires different pressure than I normally apply. But I had some gaps, and so I just filled them in with my white gel pen. I found out at this time that my white gel pen does not write smoothly anymore, and typically that means that my ink is drying out. It'll dry out whether you use it or not. It's just a time-based thing, so it's just time for me to get a new pen. But you can see I'm trying to add some pretty white circles, but they're not circles at all. But I'm doing my best to add 3 or 4 to the tops, sometimes the bottoms of a lot of these larger petals, just to add some detail. Now I'm going to take some Stampin' Up! Dimensionals, put it on the back of my sentiment, and then after I put them on I realized it was a little bit too long. So I trimmed it at 3/4 of an inch outside the sentiment on both sides, and I just cut it with a scissor, and I adhered it to the middle of my wreath. And that is the card for today. So it looks hard to do, but it's actually really easy. I love these turnabout stamps. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.